Thank you for the nice introduction, Jörg. Yeah, welcome everybody. I want to talk to you about mobile success in the next couple of minutes, especially mobile success for new startup companies, external IT developers, which is now, in my point of view, possible through public and company data and to the access to public and company data. As you may have noticed, I'm speaking here on behalf of Immobilien Scout and its launched startup platform US Now. And we are convinced that companies have to open their data for external developers to be successful. The idea is that companies which will do so will be more competitive, more efficient, making use of all the ideas of external firms, creating new mobile apps, bringing the data in new context. So what kind of ingredients you need for this success? Of course, you need the data, that's for sure. In addition, you need the application programming interface, the APIs. And most importantly, of course, you need use cases which make sense in that context with the data you are accessing via the APIs. So let's begin with data. To give you one impression, we have a huge amount of data. That's for sure. That's quite clear. And if you see how it was grown over the last years, it's quite impressive what source you now have on your hands to build new applications. The APIs you need, that's also quite impressive. I just want to show you who is in the API Billionaires Club. Non-surprisingly, it's of course the typical internet companies like Google and Facebook, which already depend a lot on their API calls, but also in e-commerce. And note that Bing per month has 3 billion API calls. The National Public Radio, and last but not least, Salesforce also is a good example, which acquires its traffic via an API. And what has this to do with mobile? I don't think about the 250 million Facebook users approaching the service via an API. You can also imagine about the National Public Radio, because the mobile explosion is there also driven via the API explosion. So what are then use cases, especially accessing public data? There's an example, for instance, from the US. You might know the application about crime reports, a very successful iPhone app who shows you on a map where crime statistics about your neighborhood, about your environment, and give you some information about your neighborhood. And of course, we have also in Germany the German Copycat, a very successful app launched this year, beginning of this year, doing the same, accessing to public data via an API and getting all the crime reports and showing them in a new context, which is useful for the iPhone users. Another example for using public data is quite simple. Of course, it's public transportation. This is an example from an Android app, which offers you the service to see where the buses and the trains will arrive at what station. Even the city of Munich has launched a contest giving access to a set of public data, and the outcome was an app about the most interesting Munich POI's point of interest, about libraries, playgrounds, taxi stations, and another app called Butterfly, which based on the idea of Fix My Street. So there people can take pictures of road damages and report them via this app to the public institutions. Also, private companies can make use of interfaces to their data. You have a very famous example of IOT Bank, which uses the API to different banks to aggregate the accounts. You have in the e-commerce apps like ShopSavvy, who make it possible to access via the API different shops. And you also have, for example, the Bertelsmann Direct Group created an app which gives you access to the book data bank. Here you can put book stories into the context of a special location. You can create own points of interest. So if you know that maybe at Berlin Alexander Place there's a book story playing, you can add this to this application via this API. And then another app, not in place yet, but Giga Local also offers local services in an app via an API. In the context of real estate, there are also already some examples. One of them is from the US. A bit scary maybe, because Block Shopper, I showed you on the website, offers also via public APIs. There's a lot of data accessible in the US, offers you the information who bought which real estate from whom and at what price. So you can here see the example of a golf player who listed his new real estate on a real estate portal, gives you some information about his personal background, give you the information at what price in 2004 he bought this. So all this data is aggregated via an API. That gives you and it gives you a new context of this information. We had here at the next elevator pitch a startup called Locator. Does also a bit make use of the APIs, showing a map where you can add local parks, public transportation, and find out where's the best place to live or to find a new home or flat. And having given some examples about real estate, you might be not surprised that also Immobilien Scout now had launched an open API exactly for these purposes. You can have set up a contest where you can, for Android applications, you can create new apps using our data, and if the 8,000 euros is not enough for you, you can then in addition build your own startup out of this. We have this US Now program where we address new entrepreneurs and founders to build on not only an app but a whole business idea on this. And if you like to apply, you can use the typical ways via Twitter or website. So thank you for your attention.
I think you demonstrated that data loves you too.
Yeah,
this is for you, but let me quickly ask you one question while they set up the computers. You showed us a lot of new possibilities to use data. What are barriers to be allowed to use these data, and how do you overcome these barriers?
I mean, there's maybe data protection laws, of course, and the example I showed you from the US, a block shopper is quite for sure not applicable one-to-one to the German data protection law, but I think you can, I mean, if you change the market, for instance, you can overcome these. So you start in a country which has a more liberalized law for it, for instance, or you just think what is possible to take out of this idea and transform it into the German market, for instance, because there's a lot of value in putting data in this new context.
And apart from the legal barriers, what are like mental barriers, for example, with corporations that you need to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, it's corporations always ask the question what kind of data they want to make accessible. So it's quite clear that some business model don't allow to make all data accessible, but just a few to build on new business models. So that might also be a barrier to.
So
to
it's a discursive process to find out which parts of the data do we want to publish and which one.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.